and welcome to our latest edition of Super Saturdays. I'm Interim Superintendent of Marlborough Public Schools, Dr. Jason DeFalco, and I'm so excited to be with you today and with our very special guest, Principal Angela House from our middle school. Angela, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on today.
Thanks for joining us. We are at a really exciting time in our middle school. You have done with your team just an immense amount of work to provide incredible opportunities to our kids. And I'm excited to be able to talk about those with you today.
Yeah, Whitcomb has definitely gone through a shift, which is great and welcomed by students and faculty alike over the past 3 years. So I'm excited to speak to some of those high points.
Awesome. So let's just jump in.
Sure.
Let's start with the student experience, right? Like, so what is it like to be a student at Whitcomb?
So Whitcomb is truly focused around our 4 core values. So we roar, respect, opportunity, academics, and responsibility. And this year we've put a real heavy focus on speaking those affirmations each and every day during our morning announcements. So that is at the foundation of all conversations we have with students, whether it's around our academics or around our social emotional interactions with students, faculty, and community members throughout the day. Being a student at Whitcomb, you are afforded so many opportunities that just enrich their experience, whether it's their academic classes, which they have 4 of each day, or their individual intervention that they may need, or maybe a world language, down to the elective opportunities that are offered. We firmly believe that every student should be engaged in the experience and have an offering of elective opportunities, musical opportunities, visual arts opportunities, and throughout their middle school career, they will experience a little bit of everything. Some of the students will tell you that the best part about being in Whitcomb is some of the visual arts experiences they have and musical experiences. So every student can join a performance group every year or a general music class. Every student will take art, graphic design, or digital media in an engineering class. And those engineering classes have technology that is far beyond what kids could dream of using. So we have 3D printers, we have laser cutters, engravers, and they are developing projects that can have function in their real lives. So I think that's a really unique student experience that we offer to every single student who comes to Whitcomb.
Yeah, one of the things I commented on, I know in the spring when I was visiting, and we were walking the middle school and just kind of to get a lay of the land and see what we offered our students was like I was totally blown away by the engineering and just the opportunities that our kids have in those types of spaces. And I think sometimes that gets overlooked, and I don't know that our community is even aware of the exposure that our students have to that type of learning, which is really hands-on. Do you want to share a little bit? I mean, because it's so much.
It's a unique
Yeah.
experience. We talk with a lot of other local schools, local middle schools, and our students are able to design and create things that others just aren't. So from our bathroom passes in all of our classrooms that are created in our engineering classrooms to sculptures they're creating that show a piece of their identity. We have digital cameras in our digital media classes with iPads, and students are actively out searching to capture the elements and principles and designs of art on a regular basis. And so they're able to print their work, feature their artwork in our bulletin boards and in our cases around our building. And I just think it allows every student, whether your heart is pulled in that direction, or whether it's the music classes, or whether it's you're really focused on academics, it just gives everyone an avenue each and every day without having to worry about today is focused on strictly academics, and there's no opportunity for this artistic expression. So whole child is really key to being a Whitcomb student.
So important. And I know as educators, this is a little bit hard for us to kind of swallow, but kids don't always want to come to school just for math and English and all of the, right? The kind of the academic subjects. I mean, yes, and right. But the and is all the things that you're talking about. And that's really important because we want to help foster that creativity and that love for just innovation and right, like creativity and doing things different.
Yeah, I think it pushes the critical thinking skills, helps to create stronger problem solvers, and the extension of it goes into the after school hours. So we have a pretty robust opportunity booklet of opportunity for kids, really. And so it's student driven. So sometimes we run a chess club if we have students that want a chess club, and sometimes we don't. Maybe one year that's a video game club or whatever their interest is. But we have art clubs for all grade levels. We have a student council. We have right now chess, video game, yearbook, literary magazine. So you get it during the school day, but then if your passion really is there, you get to kind of be free in your expression after school with a supportive staff member.
So just to make sure I have this straight. So if we have a student who wants to get involved in yearbook or a literary magazine or one of those things, but can't stay after, maybe they're watching a younger sibling
Hmm.
or they have some other responsibility, that's okay. They can do it during the day.
Absolutely.
Very cool.
Yep, and we have the transportation home every day. We had salsa dancing last week to support Hispanic Heritage Month. So we had a local community member come in, and we had about 25 students after school and learn how to salsa dance with us. So just different opportunities that I truly don't see in other places.
Oh, 100%. So let's shift gears and talk a little bit about academic excellence and achievement because, yes, all the things we just mentioned are critically important. But you mentioned something just now, I think, that I want to kind of highlight, which is the idea of really developing strong critical thinking.
Yeah.
Um, Talk a little bit about that through academic excellence, and because that has been a huge focus for Whitcomb.
Yeah, and I think it ties back to one of our core values and affirmations we speak. It's on our Wednesdays is like, I engage in the productive struggle. So we encourage students to say it out loud so that they can truly feel it and know that the work that we have done to embed high quality instructional materials in all of our classrooms is going to push their knowledge, their thinking, and like what they're comfortable with.
So tell me a little bit more about what you mean by high quality instructional materials.
So when we look at what curriculum we're using for students, whether it's our student-facing materials or what support we're providing professional development-wise to staff, our high-quality instructional materials is truly referencing grade-level text that is culturally diverse and meets the needs of all of our students. And so we go through pilot phases where we're looking at different curriculums, assessing that, and also looking at different companies to come in and talk to us about how their curriculum, whether it's HMH into literature, which is what we use, or whether it's a curriculum that we have in social studies, investigating history, to ensure it really checks all of our boxes. Does it represent the students we serve each day? Is it engaging? Does it meet the grade level standards? And does it provide opportunities for students to do the heavy lift in the classroom?
So that's what, like so that's kind of the what, right, of
Yeah.
what we're teaching.
Yep.
Share a little about the how, and that how that kind of leads to stronger academic outcomes for kids. And I know you're doing a lot of work in that space too.
Yeah. So I would say the how is different in grade levels and content areas, and that is all okay. I think that student engagement is at the forefront of what we have to do inside of our classrooms. We're really fortunate at Whitcomb to have a low student to teacher ratio. So students are able to really connect with their teachers on a deeper level, and teachers are able to get to know their students at a deeper level. So we use some of our NWA data to determine who needs to be challenged more, who needs support in certain areas. And then we work with educators and professional development to talk about different strategies, whether that's station rotations, whether it's how you're, doing your direct instruction, then breaking out into small groups, whether it's whole group, bringing someone in to speak. And so the engagement piece is really where we need to capture our middle school students and get them hooked into what they're learning and show them how it connects to their real life. Because that's when we know that they'll be able to process it, share their thoughts and opinions, and then be able to take that learning to the next step.
So you mentioned something called NWEA
A.
data. So what is that? What's that all about?
So that is our progress monitoring tool. So in addition to MCAS, which is an important high stakes test, right, state testing, we take all students and we do the NWEA math and reading assessment 3 times a year. That gives us a starting point for students to be able to look at their data dashboard, look at their growth, which is so important to look at as a family member as well. Figure out what strands do they need support in, can we offer them that support? And then also we do it in December, January timeframe to see how their progress is. If they need to shift an intervention, maybe they need to shift into a STARI group, which is an intervention group based on fluency, rather than WordGen, which is mostly comprehension. So we use that data to look at those points. Maybe their Math 180 candidate, which is an extension of their math classroom to support that learning.
Like an intervention?
Yep.
Okay.
And then we use it at the end of the year to be able to ensure that students are going into the right set of classes for the next year. Families get that report, so they go home with progress reports, which is actually right about now, day 33. So families are going to get a MAP growth report, and it shows historical since 3rd grade, their students' growth trends, which is a really important thing for students to look at with their families. We write goals on them in advisory in school. And we're going to be offering some data meetings at our parent-teacher conferences for families who might not know what to do with that information.
So these are sort of like checkpoints, right? So that we know if we're making progress along the way. And if we're not, we can intervene.
Right.
So we're not waiting till the end. You mentioned MCAS, and that like is kind of like at the end of the year, right? So that's almost, and we just got the results. So like that's sort of too late.
It's too late.
Right.
Yeah. And we want that in the moment data to be able to, whether it's pull a kid, change something with their instruction. Maybe it's just an offering after school. Maybe it's our after school help that we can offer them. Something to change if they're not making the progress that we know they can.
It all sounds very like systemic. Like we're not just today's and Thursday, we're not just getting through the day, but there's actually a master plan in place to ensure that kids are learning the right material, that they're being taught using the right strategies. We're checking for their understanding and progress as they go. Oh, and by the way, we're also offering them a whole bunch of like creative kind of opportunities to really grow as an individual and be able to kind of see what they like and don't like. Middle school is that, as a former middle school principal, your work is near and dear to my heart because that age and stage is really important. And you said something that I want to just kind of call out and name because I think it's critical at grades 6 through 8, which is the smaller class sizes.
Yeah.
Those ratios are really, really important. Sometimes we think about our elementary schools and them needing these tiny little learning environments. And sure, that's great, sort of, but it's so important when you get into middle school.
It's really important at Whitcomb because it is a big middle school. There's one middle school in the city. And so when we look at almost 1,000 students in the building, you wonder, like, how does that function? What does that look like? And the way we have restructured over the past 3 years is truly by kind of winging students. So our 6th graders are housed on their own 2 floors in their own area of the building that's located with their own bathrooms, located close to the cafeteria in the front of the building. And we've relocated all electives classes to that area, all EL classrooms into that area. So 6th graders are in smaller classrooms, but there's almost 350 of them, but it never feels that way. When you're in the classrooms, there's such a small ratio, the student to teacher ratio, that it's a small community. And when we bring them all together for community meeting, which you'd imagine like every 6th grader comes to the auditorium at once with their advisor, and we can like build community through just like lighthearted games amongst teams and cup points. So advisory is something that has been a huge success at Whitcomb. Every Thursday, students go to an advisor, and there's
so engineering classes, arts, like fine arts classes, all the music classes. Really strong research-based core instructional programs, high impact instructional practices, data and assessments as checkpoints as you go, small classroom sizes and small. We said winging. I think you meant putting them in the wings, right? Not like winging it and figuring it out. Right. You meant putting them in these small clusters. And we have an advisory program.
And the advisory is it's our 2nd year that we've been doing it. And students are typically with one teacher for the year, and they're in like groups of like 8 to 10 students.
Wow.
So you build this small community outside of your homeroom, outside of your math and ELA class, where you're truly like having conversations, whether it's around disrupting things that you know are wrong, whether it's talking about some of the anti-bias, anti-racism work that we've done, or just like simple community building in terms of like minute to win it games and seeing who has the best score on stacking cups as quickly as possible and breaking them down and then putting your hands together. The fun thing we do with it is any kind of type of competition we do in advisory to build community, we then get one person from the entire team. So there's 4 teams in each grade level. And so one student rep comes and meets with me. We prepare them. And at community meeting, I invite them up to the stage and we set up the competition and we have the 4 teams compete against each other. So most recently we had cup stacking. So students practiced with me and then we brought them up on stage, had them in front of all of their peers, and just the amount of like energy and like love for each other in a healthy competition way is just awesome to see. And so they competed and teams win cup points. So I think our leader this week is like Team Emerald with over like 986 cup points.
Great.
And so they're just working towards like truly like what middle schoolers don't have time for in the day, which is like that opportunity to be outside, or whether it's an ice cream social or whatever it is that that team wants for winning those cut points they get. So it's just a great way to build community. It's been a strength.
When do you sleep? Just kind of curious.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much going on at the middle school. Like,
the energy inspires me every day.
Yeah.
So that's the part I love about being a principal.
So
Every
awesome.
day is like you get to see the students engage them in a
Yeah.
fun way, and like they give new ideas every day.
So awesome.
So they show me like videos, and they're like, "Can we do this at next community meeting?" They want to throw giant packing boxes on top of each other to see who can get the highest stack.
Oh, cool.
So
Very cool.
we'll see what happens next.
So as a parent, I know you're a parent too.
Yep.
You have a little one. My boys are older, 19 and 16. But both obviously have gone through middle school. And even as a former middle school principal of almost 10 years, I had a lot of time in that space. I was so nervous when my own kids got up to that, because you hear the
Horrors.
right? You hear the horror stories as parents, as educators, and I get it. Like, people, chat and they talk, and sometimes an inch turns into a mile, or that kind of thing, right? And so tell me, so if you're talking to a parent and the parent's trying to figure out, like, what direction do I go for middle school for my child? Like, what would you say to me as a parent?
So I think one really important thing to consider is like what you want for your child. If you want an experience where your child is immersed in a diverse environment, held to high expectations for academics, has opportunity to engage in whether it's art or music or engineering or whatever their passion might be, robotics after school, whether you want your student in an environment that allows them to be creative and be themselves and find a group that fits them to grow up with, I would say come to Whitcomb. There is an opportunity for everyone, and I think that we've done a really great job restructuring our sixth grade. Since fifth grade left us in the middle of COVID, we have like a new transition plan for our elementary to middle school students. So dedicated school adjustment counselor per grade, dedicated guidance counselor, dedicated assistant principal, 4 teams that your student can kind of mix and match with, and just the intervention courses alone, whether it's world language your student's going into, they're experiencing Latin or Spanish, maybe they're experiencing an enrichment ELA, maybe they're going to go the accelerated math path, depending on, how they did in elementary school.
Or maybe they'll choose to go to Japan. We have a group of students in
right now,
school
as we speak,
in Japan. I think they're coming back tomorrow.
Yep.
Which is like incredible.
Yeah. So
all at Whitcomb.
And so the experiences are just, unless you're, in it and you see them coming along, it's hard to believe like that we just sent 5 kids on a plane to Japan with some chaperones. But they're there and they're meeting with host families, and then they're going to come to us. And so I would say that, yes, stories, can be scary, and middle school can be a scary place. But in an environment that we have so many teachers in our building, there's always someone for a kid to turn to.
Yeah. And small class sizes, right?
Yeah.
Ratios of. Yeah.
And I think that like our staff want to be with our kids every day. They love coming to school. There's a great camaraderie around our staff, and our from our education team leaders to our assistant principals in the building, our doors are always open for kids. So it is a rare circumstance where we're not passing a kid in the hallway knowing their name. So although, yes, it's a big building, it's a small community, and it's a very small feel inside the building. And I think that students are there to support each other. Every time there's a new kid, it warms my heart. They'll come in the caf, and there's immediately a seat for them at the table. And there's someone inviting them over and speaking their native language. And
that says something. You run a tight ship. So that says,
yeah. And so
care is there.
It's there. Yeah. My year started with, a new student. I was like, hey, you must be new. I've never seen you before. And gave me his name. Then 3 days later, he noticed another new student in the caf. And he's like, hey, what's that kid's name? I'm like, oh, you know what? I think he's new. Let me grab his name. He goes, I know, he looks new. He's sitting by himself. Can I invite him over my table? And I was like, yes, you can. And that's just the environment you get.
And a ripple effect, right?
Yeah.
Goes out from there.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, Principal House, we are so lucky to have you. And thank you for your time today. You have 100 other things that you need to be doing back in the building, but very grateful for your time and so much. You put so much into this, so much effort, energy. I see it, and I know our community sees it. And so I can't thank you enough for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to hear from another one of our incredible leaders, and we're going to get an update on the Richer School project. We'll be right back. welcome back. Our panel from our last segment has multiplied. I'm joined this afternoon by some very important guests, and I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves to you before we get rolling into our next segment.
Hi, I'm Lisa Richards. I'm the principal of Richer Elementary School.
Hi, I'm Chris Eberly. I'm the project executive for the Vertex Companies. We're the owner's project manager for the city of Marlborough.
My name is Christopher Lee. I'm a project manager with Marlborough Pagano Associates Architects, and we're the designers, architects for Richer.
And my name is Christina Baselmans. I'm the project architect with LPAA, Marlborough Pagano Associates Architects.
So if you haven't figured out by now, the second segment of Super Saturday is focused on the Richer School, and very specifically, what we hope will be the new Richer School. We're very excited about all of the time, effort, energy, and work that has gone into really reimagining the teaching and learning space for our students and our staff over at Richer Elementary School. Lots of work has been done to date in partnership with our Mass School Building Authority team, and of course with the individuals that are joining us today. Not just our building principal, but of course the owner's project manager that's tasked with keeping all of the trains running and on schedule and the project moving on budget as it's supposed to, and our designers who are helping to really bring to life the vision of what we hope teaching and learning, the reimagined teaching and learning will look like at the Richer School. So with that, Lisa, we're going to actually start our conversation with you because I know that we've spent a lot of time talking about this, but can you share a little bit with our community about what an improved Richer School would do for the student learning experience?
Oh, gosh. I think one of the big things is we'll have space. We're going to have more space for our kids to move about. They'll have more space within the classroom. I think just classroom design opportunities are going to be huge for the kids at the younger levels, be age appropriate for them to have some sensory spaces. We talked about that, allowing for the kids to stay in the classroom when they need that little bit of a break. And then for our upper grades, I'm excited to see how we might be able to design classrooms so that they're conducive to what older kids might be doing, where they're more in a collaborative setting and project-based opportunities for them. We talked about having classrooms that are near the support classrooms, so that cuts down on transition time for the kids, more time on learning that way. I think one of the big things that's going to help them stay focused is having that controlled climate opportunity for them to be able to stay focused on their learning. So I'm excited about it.
And there's also another kind of big change. So we talk about more space, but there's going to be more people, right? So the school is going to grow to, when it's currently about 525 students, to about 950. Is that right?
Correct.
So that's a big building.
That's a big building.
Lots of little ones in there.
Yeah, I'm excited.
And the idea of having things kind of clustered together and put in, in very intentional places sounds like it's something that you've put a lot of thought and effort and energy into.
Yeah, we talked about having specific grades on different floors. So it's going to be a 3-story building. We intentionally want K and 1 on the main floor of that building. Those are our youngest learners. They're just coming new to school and learning how to navigate school. So having them with similar age peers is really important and help them feel comfortable and secure in the school setting. And then we've got grades 2, 3, and 4, so middle elementary grades, where kids are starting to gain some more independence, some more academic confidence, where they can really work on their peer relationships, I think is really important. And then I'm really most excited about grade 5, having the opportunity to have a floor all to themselves, where they can really practice some leadership skills, take on some more responsibility within the school. And they follow a little bit of a different schedule, closer to the middle school. So it helps prepare them for that transition moving forward. So
it says the opportunities are going to be tremendous.
Yeah.
So you've talked a little bit about some of the things you're most excited about and looking forward to in the new space, but share a little bit about how students and teachers are getting their voice into this. Because I have to imagine as designers, this is something that's probably really important to both of you. But and I know, Lisa, as your leadership style is very inclusive. So you're constantly bringing people into the decision making and into the work. So what does that look like?
Yeah, so I know Christina has already met with some of our lead teachers and gotten some feedback from them.
But we are going to further go into that with interviews with, I believe it's going to be both of you. And I will have all staff be part of that. So different focus groups. So specific grade levels will meet where it's appropriate, K by themselves and grades 1 and 2, and then 3, 4, 5. But everybody will have a voice, kitchen staff, custodial, our special education department. So I'm working on a schedule so that they can have their voice there. And then for the students, I've really been thinking about how to let them have a voice. And it reminded me of a contest that one of our kids participated in. Well, all of our first graders participated in. And it was, what would you like to see in a new school? And the timing was perfect. And one of our kiddos actually won. It was in art design. So I said, I would love to get my art teacher and my innovations teacher involved so that they can plan some lessons around what would your ideal classroom look like, or what would your ideal school look like, and have the kids really do a physical replication of what that might be. And then the other thing I was thinking of is I'd like to have a student focus group where we sort of tour Richer, because we are such a family feeling school, and we take a lot of pride in that. So I don't want to lose that, and to get the kids to be able to say, this is what I love about our school as we tour through the school, and I want to make sure we have this in our new school. And then maybe they'll be able to point out some opportunities where we can add new. So
I love that. And I've heard of other projects that have taken something from the old building and brought it into the design of, so that's great.
Yeah, I'm excited.
A good design challenge for you guys.
I'm excited.
That's awesome.
And I think, the kids are starting to hear about there potentially being a new school. I think their parents might be talking about it more. So just getting that excitement going, and I think it's going to create a lot of pride in our school now as they're getting involved in it. And I look forward to what that's going to bring when we do open the doors to the new school, and just have that level of excitement that's going to get the kids to want to come to school.
I agree. I feel like we're starting to hear more conversation about it. I think it's getting some more traction. And I know recently there was an important vote that decided where the building was going to be built, if approved by the city ultimately. And that is actually on the Richer site. Yep. Where your current school is. So there'll be some unique challenges, I'm sure, with that, but nothing we'll be able to manage.
Right.
So the neat thing is, I think the school community, as close-knit as it is, will be able to see this building kind of unfold right in front of them.
Right.
Which will be, I think, in itself a really exciting learning experience.
Yeah, it'll be good.
It's great. So let's talk about that, Chris. And you're with Vertex, and you have a very specific role in this project. And we use the term OPM for Owner's Project Manager, and I think most of us are all very comfortable with that. But can you just talk a little bit about to our families and friends at home that maybe they're not sure what is an OPM? What do you do?
Well, so we really become the first people in the door and the last people out. We help to bring the right designer to the city, and we also later on will help to bring the right contractors and the right qualified contractors to the city. We also have we're the process guys. We have a lot of role in establishing a process for how you move through your project. We worked with the school building committee early on to identify an approach and make sure that we had architects come to us with proposals that would really speak to what the city needed for their project. And then once the architect came on, we worked with the architect to make sure that we had the right process to work through how we would get to each of the phases of the design, and ultimately to get to a funding vote that will likely happen in the summer of 2026 before we move on to construction. So we're really here to make sure that the city has an educated voice that's working on their behalf as we move through all the decisions.
So you said two things just now that I think were really important. You mentioned a school building committee. Do you want to just share and kind of elaborate very quickly? Like, what is that? What is the role of the school building committee? Who is on that committee?
Sure. So the process that the city's entered into is with the Mass School Building Authority. And part of the advantage of moving into a process with the Mass School Building Authority is that they will bring a sizable grant to the city of Marlborough if the project is approved that helps offset a significant chunk of the costs. Part of their process requires that the city establish a group that directs the project. and they have certain roles that they want to be on that committee. Someone who's familiar with procurement rules, someone who's familiar with the education within the city, as well as local city government, city employees, and members of the community who are also participating, whether they be elected members of the community or just citizens that have donated their time. And so the city of Marlborough established the school building committee as part of their entrance into the MSBA's program. Their first role was to bring us on, and then they participated in the process that brought Lamoureux Pagano into the project as well. So they're really the drivers that make the decisions. They've publicly noticed meetings, at least on a monthly basis. And that's where a lot of the decisions are made that advance this project through a process that ultimately will result in a new, richer school if it's approved by the city government.
So it's really kind of a body of individuals that come together from different kind of parts or facets of the city that are really charged with helping to make decisions for a new building.
Yeah, it's really important to the MSBA that the decisions that are made about your school are a local process. And I know you know this. You worked on an educational plan that was part of that process that the school building committee reviewed, as well as the school committee reviews, that really speaks to not how the state wants Marlborough to educate their students, but how Marlborough chooses to educate their students. And that process is really what drives how we create a building that's appropriate for the city of Marlborough.
So you've mentioned this a few times, and I think it's important to come back to this idea of process. So the Mass School Building Authority, or MSBA, we hear it referred to often, has kind of put this process in place that we have to follow. Share with us a little bit about how do you keep that schedule on track, and how do you, because that's right, you represent, your role is to represent the city, right? This is a city project. So how do you keep it on schedule? How do you keep it on budget, which is really important to make sure that we're utilizing our taxpayer resources effectively and efficiently? And I mean, that's got to be a huge undertaking.
Oh, it can be, but I think the way that we view projects is that any project is a series of decisions, and they're a cascading series of decisions that you make in the right order on the right schedule to make sure that at the end of the day, you have the opportunity to get the right thing for you. And so when we break down a schedule, we really look at what those decisions are. Good example of that is the site selection process. We know that Marlborough, like a lot of the communities in Massachusetts, is challenged for buildable land. Marlborough has made great strides in its business and also its residential communities, but the side effect of that is that you don't have a lot of buildable land. We knew that it's challenging because we've done it many times to build directly next to a school and not disrupt education. So we wanted to make sure that if that was the decision that was ultimately made, that we at least looked at what other opportunities were out there so that we could make an informed decision. We worked with LPA to set the process of when those decisions needed to be made. We talked with the members of the school building committee as well as the city government to make sure that they understood the process that we needed to work through to make those decisions so that we could fairly and fully evaluate all of the options that were out there. And I say it's a cascading series of decisions. It's really about what decision needs to be made first. What decisions does that lead you to ultimately get to your goal? And so when we look at that, we actually start at the end of where do we want to get and what is it going to take us to get to that goal? And we work with folks like yourself and folks within the city and the designer to make sure that as we're figuring out what those decisions need to be, that they're happening at the right time in the right order so that we can really have a clear, transparent process that leads us to the ultimate decision that is made.
That's quite the undertaking. And you mentioned the site selection being a challenge. Have there been other challenges with this process so far? Is there anything other than site selection that you referenced that has been a heavy lift to keep moving and on schedule?
I think it's been good to understand the community. You have some unique challenges with the growth that's going on in your community. And so we've worked hard to understand that fully and make sure that we're making the right decisions. One of the impacts that was identified early on is that this isn't just giving the students that attend richer a better school. The goal of this project is really to give the city of Marlborough better elementary schools overall. And so when we look through how do we understand the impact this project can have, we looked at how can we change the other three schools in a way that makes them better because we're building this large school. You mentioned that we're targeting a 950 student school, which is significantly larger than what we have now. But part of that growth is something that the city and the MSBA talked about earlier in the process so that they could understand how we can take students from each of those schools, relocate them into the richer school, and make the learning environment better in each of those schools through this single project.
So things like right now in our elementary schools, all of our elementary schools, library, media center spaces are being used as classroom space. So what I'm hearing you say is by making a bigger building and taking students out of the other elementary schools, that'll free up some of the space in our existing elementary schools so that we can use those areas like our media center library as it was intended, right?
And it's about creating those opportunities, and it's also about creating a building that's appropriate. We know that the challenge in Marlborough is really about space right now. And so when we talked with LPA through the process of moving through this, we really wanted to study options that focused on how could we create space in an efficient way, and how could we create space that was both appropriate to the way that Marlborough educates their students, but also appropriate in terms of delivering a valuable or an efficient structure so that you were delivering value to the community with the design. And what we've got to in this midpoint in the feasibility study that we're at now is a fairly cost-effective building that the cost per square foot is actually on the lower side of similar projects that are in the MSBA system.
That is the perfect segue to our architects, our designers. Really would love to hear a bit about, and I'm sure our community, our family and friends at home would love to hear a bit about what has inspired this design. So like designing a building, it's very technical, right? I've seen your work. It's incredibly technical, but I've also seen your work, and you both are very plugged in to what Lisa's talking about. And I've seen you make modifications and changes and that are inspired from, feedback and from kids and from staff. But like, tell us what has really gone into this?
So one of our core values is being inspired by our clients. And so that's listening and understanding what are the needs are, what are the wish list things, what is the culture. You mentioned assignments and art projects. We've had different schools send us those things. We will look at them, all of them. It just helps us get like that much more embedded and ingrained into what's going on in Marlborough, at your particular. It just gives us a little feel, if you will, right? Yeah. So we're looking forward to, if you can't share this, or if you want us to come to your school, well, we can do that too, to get that inspiration going. We do that for a lot of our projects, but it's, it's still really early on. We're maybe like 10, 50% of the way. So there's a lot to look forward to work through and design. And so, what do you think, Christina?
I think that we've been really inspired by those early visioning sessions that we had, where we heard over and over again how important it was that this building is a community resource, that all students and families feel welcomed and safe, both emotionally and physically. So that's one of the things that I think is so inspiring. We're inspired to be able to design spaces that meet that goal, that serve the students and the teachers during the school hours, but then also can transform and serve the community after school hours. So I think that's one of the things that came out of the really, really early visioning sessions that we're going to carry through all the way to the end.
And I love that you mentioned, Chris, that we're still so early on in this work, so that folks listening at home, understand that the horse is not out of the barn yet, so to speak, or whatever that expression is. Like, there's lots of time, right? Like, there's lots of time to get their voice and their input and thoughts into the design. And I know you mentioned some work coming up with our staff, and we'll be able to have just that, right? These kind of deeper sessions.
So it's already been talked about, but we know kind of what wants to be in the building and where it's going to be. Otherwise, it's still pretty much a clean slate, to be honest.
Yeah.
So with that clean slate, we know that learning has changed a lot. And I'm sure everybody has an opinion on it, and that's totally fine, good, bad, or indifferent. But we hear a lot, the kind of buzz terms, 21st century learning and 21st century skills and all of this. But how are we designing the building for those 21st century, standards and skills and learning experiences?
That's a great question. I think, like you said, with the clean slate, that's a really great point to like launch off on this 21st century learning concept. So, with new construction on the existing Richer site, we have a clean slate to start kind of a little bit fresh. We have the space and the technology to be able to build in the infrastructure to support one-to-one technology, those interactive smart boards, speech reinforcement, so that that student-centric learning that's already happening at the Richer Elementary School can just be even more supported by the building and the technology that we're going to build into the building. So that's one option. And the other thing that I think everybody's really excited about is the idea that we have an opportunity to reintroduce a library media center, a centralized location with all of that technology, those resources, that access to real world technology, and most importantly, I think a place where multiple classes can come together and collaborate and innovate in a way that I don't think there's a space to do that right now. So it's just a matter of how that building is going to continue to support instead of hinder the good work that you're already doing at the school.
Definitely a standout feature for sure. And some folks may be listening and thinking, well, it's a school library, but that's not like, this is meant to be a very, kind of welcoming, innovative, right, collaborative, creative space.
Exactly.
So very cool. So question to all of you. We talked a bit about what this school is going to do, it sounds like, for our students, and we talked a little about community, but like, what do you think the real impact of this new, larger, richer school will be on Marlborough itself? Like, where are we really going to see the impact?
I think when you think about a new school, people are hesitant. They know that there's tax impacts. A new school is a big undertaking. Costs are much higher than the last new school that Marlborough built. But at the same time, the value that that school offers to the community can be measured in so many ways that you can measure and that you can't. I think the Goodnow Brothers School added a great new learning environment. It originally looked at replacing the Richer School when it was conceived, and it went in a direction where the community went in a direction that it didn't have the resources to address the number of students that had grown in the city of Marlborough. And so now we're back looking at the same school again, trying to give you that ability to improve the life of your students. All of the community starts as kids. And so if you can create an environment that is healthier, that is welcoming, that is safe for those kids, you're going to grow a better community. And that's what we've seen in so many of the communities that have built new schools and seen that improvement.
I love the way you just said that. It's just improving the health of our students, and that, kind of what I heard you saying is that really kind of pays forward, and it's really about strengthening the community. And it sounds like that's really the kind of crux of what we're trying to do with this project, which is really incredible.
Another aspect, I mean, yes, it's a school, but at the same time, what happens after school? It's a big community resource that if, intentionally opened up, and if, programs can be offered, it can really impact the community in that way as well. I mean, new schools draw in new families. It's just something to boast about. Hey, we have a new school. So I think there's definitely a lot of aspects to, having a new school in town or in city.
For sure. So if I am just kind of hearing about this for the first time, or if I've sort of been paying attention, but not too deeply, where do I go to learn more? How do I stay in touch with the work that's happening? It's school.
Well, I think you have an opportunity if you're paying attention to the City of Marlborough website. They post all public meetings, and the school building committee meetings are posted on that site. So that gives you an opportunity to, if you wish, join those meetings and see the work as it's happening. You also get the opportunity to see the work that's already happened on a website that has been created by Marlborough Public Schools that's available. I think you could throw it on the screen for the folks at home, and they can go there and see the past work that's already happened And we continue to add to that all the time with the things that we're doing. Already, we've had 2 submissions to the MSBA, or 1 submission to the MSBA, one that's going in next week. And those really detail the process that we went through in crafting the educational plan. They show the process that we went through to understand the sites that were available in the city of Marlborough. And then the more recent submission is really going to speak to what's been done to evaluate the schemes that rose to the top and to ultimately choose the direction that we went. We did look at a whole range of options, and so you can see a lot of details about those various options and the decision-making process that went into them.
So on the Marlborough Public Schools webpage, the Richer School Project is right on the main page. We can click that, and there's all kinds of information there. And the city webpage, it sounds like, as well, is information. So,
And Jay, you were just at Richard. We're going to be inviting you to an upcoming PTO meeting, so probably in November. So I know you had mentioned talking about the Richer School Project there as well. So that's an opportunity for us to reach out to the Richer community and
definitely
make sure that they're aware that you're going to be there. And if they want to hear more about it or ask some questions, that's a good forum for that.
Absolutely. What an exciting time for the school community, but for the city as a whole. Christina, Chris, Lisa, thank you so much, not just for being here today, but I know that the 4 of you have put endless hours and lots of energy into this project so far. Where you said 10, 15% of the way there. So you got a long way to go. So rest up. But I really grateful for your time today. That concludes this episode of Super Saturday. I'm Jason DeFalco, Interim Superintendent for Marlborough Public Schools, transforming education. See you next time.